It's like a very lull. There was a serious time before we get to a fun episode. Welcome, everyone, to the Heroes World Quarantine podcast. I am your host, Dupe. With me today are the owners and proprietors of Heroes World. Of course, that'd be the owners, proprietors, as I like to double stake that down. Andre and John, say
Make
hello.
it very clear. What's up?
Wow.
I
There's
had
a
to do
delay.
I thought Stu had another part.
No, I was thinking both because I'm like,
I didn't want to jump in and
I want to check if they're both awake. Fun fact alert. I finally went to the store the first time on Wednesday, and man, oh man.
First visit in 2021 for Stu.
No, I've been there before. No, since the big Ken Lashley event you guys held, which I saw pictures, but it was really cool to see the layout and stuff. So I had been there in 2021, but it was when you and Pat were there. That was the first magical time I could say. This was like when doves fly, when I saw both Andre and John in the store at the same time. So typically I don't see them both there at the same time. And then with our resident Prince of Mischief, the Ice Giant himself, Mr. Rob Udet.
Well, hello.
Let's do get help, as you would say.
Yeah.
So welcome everyone to our ongoing series of reviews on What If. This episode, of course, we're going full spoilers and we're going full in because why not? What if Thor were an only child? John, I thought this was in your wheelhouse. You love 80s comedies and 90s comedies. You are a sucker for, I have 2 dates with 2 different people and I have to run across and change outfits each time at the same point in time. So John, give us your thoughts on this episode.
I don't know. Maybe if they focus a little more on the rom-com part instead of the party dude part. But I don't know. This episode, I didn't hate it. I also didn't love it. So, straddling line somewhere in the middle there. It is fun to see, like, I don't know who was who in the voice cast, except I did know that for sure was Kat Dennings. I don't know if that was Brie Larson. I don't know if that was
No, it wasn't
Brie Larson.
No, Brie Larson, but that was Chris Hemsworth.
That was also Natalie Portman.
Was that Tom Hiddleston again?
Yep.
Yeah. Natalie Portman. Okay, yeah. So
that's
yeah,
everyone.
Cool
I think everyone but Captain Marvel was that voice in that episode.
Yeah, everyone that came back. So you have the fun storyline of what if? I guess the episode could be called "What if your Earth invaders wanted just party on, Wayne," or whatever you want to call it. So kind of a silly concept. It does have its fun moments. I do like seeing that Darcy character return. So I don't know when that was scheduled, if it was added on after. But in mentioning that, this is where you do kind of see the limitation of this type of animation. Yep. Whereas they should be focusing on the animation. So I'll get to the Captain Marvel versus Thor stuff later. The comedy aspect, which they were trying to really lean on here, is what has trouble, because if you have people talking a lot, these lips this technique that they're using doesn't quite sync up, and facial expressions, I don't know if they're non-existent or they're very, very faint, because if you have someone like a Kat Dennings, essentially possibly improving or just trying to amp it up, trying to punch up the scene, it doesn't quite hit as hard. Like the things that she was saying were pretty funny, but the face on the character and the actions didn't quite match and things like that. So those parts kind of like, it was neat to hear their voices, but it didn't match. I want to see more of her and Jimmy in a live action setting, which I've already mentioned several times before. But one character we did actually get to see, although I'll talk a little bit how I feel about it after. The Captain Marvel character. So Marvel's been pushing this character hard. She had a movie. Did she appear in Infinity War and Endgame, or just one of them?
Yep. Briefly in both, yes.
Yeah. So this character, I feel like they've always pushed her aside because they don't have the VFX budget to let her go crazy. So we finally she makes an appearance in, I forgot what episode, the What If the Avengers had all slowly died via Hank Pym or whatever silliness. So she shows up at the end, doesn't do anything. So this one she actually gets to do quite a bit, actually. She gets to fight, she gets to show her power. They kind of illustrate how powerful she is. So it kind of sucks that it's in this comedy setting, because I want to see her be a real badass, but she looked really good. The costume looked really good on screen, very faithful. It did make me think, hey, I should read some Captain Marvel comics. So success in that part, but I thought it was a little tough that she just gets to be silly and punch Thor a bunch of times, and and it doesn't seem like Thor is really doing anything that bad. So I don't know if they need to show more of his destruction. But I look forward to seeing that character more, and it makes me wish for a more serious tone. So I don't know if she's got an episode coming up. It doesn't look like it if we go by the trailers we've seen.
John, may I mention that she's in a movie coming up soon, so you get that one, the Marvel.
It's not happening right now, Stu. This is what we have right now. So
teasing you up for it, John. I get what you're saying, but at the same time, as Andre would say too, is that if you just have the solution, it's like the same thing about a scary movie. It's like, oh, I go to this haunted house. Why don't you just leave the haunted house?
So this second
it's like kind
movie,
of a little
Stu,
thing where you have to kind of build it up.
She better get to really cut loose, and she better not be like
she blew up the Capitol ship in the Endgame movie. Like she flew through a building,
through it.
Yeah,
and then she essentially disappears for a lot of the movie. A lot of the movie is her going, I got to call, I got to go, right? They've done that several times, even in the What If series where they now have the budget or the ability to let her do whatever. So it was nice to see her finally cut loose. So I don't know. I don't know if this is maybe it's down. I don't know if it's my least favorite episode, but it's got some comedic elements that I guess
patrolling
are fun,
the
but
entire universe and doing planet to planet, and you're just like, why can't she solve all my problems? So that's what you're saying, John.
No, I wanted to see her in a more serious.
But didn't she say that I can't amp up because I could destroy half the planet? And
they come up with a solution for her to unleash the power, and then it gets cut short and stuff like that. So I want to hear what the other guys think.
All right, well, Andre, I'm going to jump to you because I know you have some thoughts.
Yeah, so this was a hard one for me to watch. And I'll start with John mentioned the Thor movies. I enjoyed the first Thor movie, and I thought that it really worked because they were on a kind of a budget. Thor, the second one, was just hot garbage, and I didn't make it through Ragnarok. Don't like the MCU's interpretation of Thor. That being said, if people enjoyed Ragnarok, I think they would enjoy this episode. It makes you come to a realization that some things are just not going to resonate with you. Some things are not made for you, and I think in this particular episode, that was definitely it for me. But what it also made me do was go back and watch the first episode again to see if I was overhyped for the whole What If show, because now this was episode 9.
No, 7.
7. Okay, so episode 7. Yeah,
7 of 9. It's Stu's Star Trek character.
7 of 9. And
Andre thought he forgot about the other 2 episodes.
Yeah,
it was so bad. I forgot.
Yeah,
Andre's been either adding years to his life or subtracting. Yeah, either way you want to do it, Andre. I'll let you fly.
This felt like the longest episode by far, and I checked the timestamp, and it was, I think, maybe 1 minute longer than some of the other ones.
It's a long minute.
Yeah, this is, again, since it's not for me, again, take my opinion as a grain of salt, but this was, I think they missed on everything that they were trying to do. And I think at this point now, and I think we've mentioned it before, I've mentioned before, they had 2 good ideas, and I think the rest, they're not even phoning it in. I think they're texting it in at this point, or they got old pagers, and that's how they're writing the script. What if Thor was an only child? So that means in this whole thing, he's got no sense of responsibility. He doesn't become friends with Balder. He doesn't become friends with the Warriors 3. Like, he does absolutely nothing. And this is and the galaxy is so totally changed that all the Guardians of the Galaxy end up on Earth, and the whole world, the whole galaxy is just a party place. Again, really, really cool if that's what you're into, but talk about zero effort in the jokes. Like John said, the facial animations and the faces of the characters, like that didn't even look like Jane Foster. At least when I rewatched the Peggy Carter, it does look like Peggy Carter, and it does look like Steve Rogers. You can see that they are trying to do a visual adaptation. So I thought that was really poor. I will say I did enjoy the fight between Captain Marvel and Thor, but at the same time, it was all like more of the same thing. Like I kept expecting something more imaginative in the choreography of the fight, because we'd had better fight scenes and we'd had more imagination in some of these other episodes. So yeah, I get John said, is this the worst episode? Well, this is now the worst episode for me. I don't even know how you grade this. But again, it's not for me. So
I'm going to ask you, Andre. Don't worry about it.
Who loves comedy and stuff, loves everything. But I will say, from a structural standpoint, rewatching the first episode and the second episode, the early episodes kind of gave you a little bit of this is what we've changed, and they showed you the original. Like this one should say, what if Steve Rogers doesn't become Captain America? And they go, this didn't do that, right? Again, it has no proper ending, yet they teased something at the end, which was really cool.
I didn't even talk about the ending.
I don't know if we can talk about that now, but to me, that was like,
no, we can. Yeah, go for
it. So they
talk with the spoilers. This is fine.
Ultron, there's a combination of Ultron and Vision, and they have all the Infinity Gems. And instantly I'm thinking, somebody played the new Marvel versus Capcom, because there was an Ultron Sigma, which was a very, very cool combination. And I'm like, that episode right there has more imagination.
I'd watch that one.
I'd watch that. But this, like, again, we don't.
Spoiler, Andre.
Not getting it.
I think we are getting it.
We are going to get that,
because if you watch the trailer of Marvel, it showed Party Thor next to Doctor Strange in the episode where he's the last person left, and that didn't show up in this episode. So it makes me wonder that they're going to break the rules for the next one and have a straight continuation, and all those random characters, a la the Exiles, will just join up to fight this Ultron. Because if he's coming through the portal, that means they've opened up this kind of, I guess, the mindset of like, we're going to open up these different universes, and they're going to build this this Exiles based Avengers team, with Doctor Strange and Thor and all these other characters, and maybe Captain Carter, and then have them fight this Ultron. So I imagine this is the thing.
But also too, like you just mentioned, the Avengers, why would Thor not having a brother not trigger Earth to have heroes, and the only hero be Captain Marvel? I think Iron Man still could have been there, because maybe you wouldn't get Thor, maybe you wouldn't get the Avengers, right? But again, so I get it, but I just don't get it. So it just wasn't enough for me.
No, I don't disagree with you, Andre, but I think that they're following a set rules with this what if that's similar to the TV shows, where when we read comics, we're really spoiled, because you can just draw any Marvel character and put it in your book. But a lot of this is when it comes to voicing and whatnot, you're kind of restricted on who you can bring in. So I think the what if show is kind of following the template of like, let's pretend this is a live action show. Who can we bring in? Because if we stack the deck every single time and bring in, the solution is just bring in Mr. Fantastic every single time.
No, but Stu, I understand what you're saying, but I'm not saying that they had to voice them and give them parts. But literally, we had all of the Guardians of the Galaxy characters in there. We had the Collector in there. How much would it have been to just draw in Iron Man and have somebody voice over, hey, stop Thor, and Thor just throws the hammer and knocks him down, and then Hulk comes in and then just joins the party? Like, why did
but like I said before, exist? it's you, if you set that precedence, even though what if, it's people will expect that in the TV shows and the movies too.
I know. Again, why would they bring in all the Guardians characters? It could have just been a party for Asgardians.
There was no Gamora, so it was no Groot. It was Rocket, it was Yondu, and it was very specific.
Rocket, Yondu, Nebula. Drax, the Nebula.
No Star-Lord, no Gamora.
So but then again, we had other characters.
Secondary
characters, saw Loki and the Frost Giants. Anyways, that's because the story they wanted to tell. Sure,
that's the only one they're allowed to do, right? Because it could be like, you could be the best writer, but you come in and here's my idea, and then the boss is like, Andre, I like what you're doing, but you can't use the following characters. You're like, well, I'll take whatever I can get. So again, we can't tell behind the scenes. I agree with you. There's aspects of these shows where you want to do more, and even I think maybe it's the Galaxy brain. I know you said before about the look of these characters, and I think they're trying to do it on purpose to make it just a little bit off, because the biggest condemnation of all these Marvel games is like, why don't they look like the people from the movies? Like remember the Marvel game came out, it's like, why does it look like the poor man's Chris Hemsworth? And I think if Marvel subtitle,
if they took these skins and put them into that game, I bet you that game would start selling
100% high. But they're like it. But you know what it is, Andre? It's like 10% off. It's like, it looks like Haley, but just 10% off of what it is. And just like Captain Marvel, everyone kind of looks, but a teeny bit off. And if you set this precedence on the show, then when video game stuff do it, it's like we can make it look close and see how it is for people, because actors will sue for their likeness and whatnot. Try it out, because again, the Marvel's game don't succeed if you don't look at, because now people are used to seeing, I want to see Chris Hemsworth. Like even Spider-Man, they changed the face of the Spider-Man character in Spider-Man 2 because people complained when Spider-Man 1 came out. They're like, Sony, why doesn't this look like, you know, the Spider-Man we know? Why doesn't it look like, you know, Tom Holland? So this is, people are nitpicking about that too. It's like, and then they change it to kind of make it look like him. So I agree with you. You want it the same, but I think from a big brain Marvel perspective, they're like, how much can we change the uncanny valley to make it look close, but not close enough, so we can start doing more of these secondary things about paying the rights to these actors? Because if it's you, Andre, and I'm gonna draw you on it, you're gonna want a little bit of cheddar for every time your face shows up on any video game TV or something. So I think they're just finding a way to do it cheaper.
It could be a writing room thing too. Maybe they assign, I don't know who writes all the episodes. They're like, are you using Iron Man? Yeah, I'm using Iron Man. Okay, so we're not going to also use Iron Man and outshine your Iron. Maybe it's something along that.
But also in terms of
it could be tied to the voice actors as well. I find that the
well,
people who are not,
they get a certain rate.
Right. So if you're not having the MCU actors voicing their own character, so like the Carol Danvers was a different, it wasn't Brie Larson.
No.
She looks a little bit off. Like I feel like all the people who are not voicing their MCU counterparts, they're a little bit off.
About, visually,
But also in terms of this
visually.
could be, again, maybe a galaxy brain thinking. It's like they do it just a little bit off, so you get used to the fact that a new character, like a new Robert, we don't have to be tethered with Robert Downey Jr. We can bring in a new Iron Man, a new person, and get people used to a new face.
It'll be Ryan Reynolds.
Always
just to piss Andre off.
No, Ryan Reynolds. He's too old.
No, but I think Andre's point is they've set this precedent that the Avengers are these characters.
Yeah.
They happen in the MCU. Oh, now you change.
Yeah, but the multiverse of madness.
Where are these guys all of a sudden?
Yeah, but
why
but
have
the
you
multiverse,
gone to the backup? Captain
but the
Marvel,
multiverse is just changing, where they're like, we can do new things every single time, because it's good to have continuity, but if you're beholden to it, then you have no flexibility. And I think they're just like, what can we do? Because they saw what happened in RIP Chadwick Boseman. Like you cannot base everything on one character either, because if something bad happens or someone gets canceled, then all of a sudden you're screwed. You got to get some flexibility, because that's the nature of Hollywood now. Someone unearths a tweet that you did 10 years ago, and all of a sudden James Gunn's gone. And what are you going to do next? So I don't blame them.
That squad.
Yeah. And then you go, and as you know, I was talking to my brother about it last night. It was like, you go full James Gunn, and all of us are like, ooh, this is what it's like when you have full power and do whatever you want. It's not always the best. Sometimes you need someone to say, Andre, I like what you're doing, but can you scale it back a little bit? Because if you go full, then all of a sudden, unless the vision is perfect, it can go the other direction, right? Because I think Guardians, some people have mixed feelings on Guardians, but Guardians is a tighter, more unique film than watching Suicide Squad. There is no reason to play music in Suicide Squad. At least there's a mixtape. There's like a cassette tape that's playing music in Guardians of the Galaxy. All right, Rob, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so the points that both John and Andre brought up are completely valid, but I will say that I enjoyed this episode. My gripe with it kind of mirrors Andre's in terms of the idea, the whole notion of what if Thor was an only child, which then begets all this shit happening, makes no sense to me. Like that, you're now saying that Loki was the moral compass for Thor growing up, right? That Loki balanced out Thor's ways and essentially contributed or made him the hero that we've all become accustomed to in the MCU. That makes zero sense to me. Like, it just seems like such a stupid idea to say if he's an only child and now look what happens. There's nobody to rein him in. I don't understand it. I understand what like their narration of it was that because without Loki, nobody was causing mischief. Thor couldn't have been the better older brother. All the mischief was being done by Loki. Therefore, Thor had to be but that just, it's a stupid premise. And it felt really like lazy to me. Like I was just like, I just felt like, well, what are we gonna do with Thor? I don't know. What if he was an only child? Yeah, that sounds great. Let's make him party Thor. Like I don't understand.
Well, it's like they made him party Thor, and they were like, "What can we make the what if?"
Why is he party
Thor?
Everything
else.
Maybe Loki never stayed with Odin, and he went back to the Frost Giants. Okay, sounds good.
Well, that's a stretch, Rob. Let's go with it.
Yeah. So for that purpose,
put it on the board.
So for the actual
Yeah.
skeleton of the plot, I thought was ridiculous and dumb. But that being said, where I disagree with Andre is that he says he thought he phoned it in. I felt in this episode, the voice act like Kat Dennings did a fantastic job reprising her role as Darcy. Like, I don't know if she's done voiceover work previously in any animation, but she sounded like she was having fun delivering her lines. There's been a lot of actors that we've seen reprise their roles throughout this series that I've always, and I think I've said this before, I felt like they were just reading off a script. Like I thought, even last week with Michael B. Jordan, at times I thought his delivery was very flat. Whereas I felt Kat Dennings this week was the complete opposite. And I think that Chris Hemsworth was very similar as well. I don't think he was phoning it in. I think he went like over the top because it was warranted. So
I'm thinking Andre meant story-wise and
I just it was just to clarify. It's I story was phoned in, not what the voice actors were doing. They were doing what they were.
But
meant to do, right?
I think that for me, their delivery of those lines really heightened my enjoyment of this episode. Like I was like, because they weren't phoning it in, because they weren't just reading lines off of paper, that they were actually emoting through their voice work. I was like, I'm cool with this. I'm liking it. I thought it was so, because the premise is so stupid, I had no point. I had no.
You were like, I get it.
Yeah, I was like, this is dumb. But I'm gonna go with it.
It's what if Rob was Thor?
Yeah,
and
but I'm gonna go with it.
Yo, let's have a party.
Listen, if we can, so I went with it. I thought that the interaction, I thought Kat Dennings and Howard the Duck, they got married. Like that's just so stupid. And yet I was like, okay, if we're gonna go full stupid, then I'm gonna try to enjoy this as much as possible. So I liked it for that stuff. I liked the fact that Thor was a big whiny baby because his mom was being called. And I can relate to that. I was like, okay, that's kind of funny, right?
It sucks for, I don't know if it sucks for diehard Thor fans though, that they turn the character into this. But
well, yeah. So I thought that the fight though, the choreography between Captain Marvel and Thor, I thought was good. Like I actually quite enjoyed the visualization of it. I know that you guys had, and Andre said it was the counterpoint that he didn't think it was as strong, but I enjoyed it based on some of the other things that we've seen action wise in this series. I also have to say that part of my enjoyment in this episode was knowing that Andre would hate it. Yes. Knowing that, I was like, when it was like Party Thor, I was like, oh, Andre's really not gonna like this. And I was like, as I'm watching it, I was like, oh, I could bet Andre just like holding a pillow and ripping it apart. I was waiting for Andre to show the remnants of something that he had actually ripped and broken while watching.
So maybe you didn't actually like the episode. You just took pleasure in
I took pleasure in my disliking it.
Yeah.
You're like, Andre has to watch this for the show tomorrow. This is great.
Andre doesn't have to do anything, but Andre's gonna do it.
No,
but
I'm in jest. Yeah. I'm in jest. I'm joking, but I actually thought that this, because the premise was so stupid and I didn't like the idea of it, because they didn't hold back. If you're going to do a stupid premise, then give me a stupid show. And they gave us a stupid show and they went they didn't hold back. They swung for the fences. And I think that they nailed it based on the ridiculousness of the premise. Yeah. And so if you have a stupid premise and you can't stick the landing, to me, then you've wasted the episode. So that's how I'm looking at it. I agree that it's not the strongest episode, but that being said, I think that they set out to make a dumb episode and they did it purposefully, and for that reason I think it's better than some of the other episodes that we've received.
And let's be fair, the What If series we know goes back to the 70s, and Andre can talk to us. Not all the What If comics are good. Some are good and some are bad. Some are half-assed. Some are like, what if Spider-Man wasn't bitten by the spider? You're like, oh, this is going to be not a fun comic read.
So just a nerd with a camera.
It's like, what if
it was a regular dude?
Yeah, it's like, what if, and there's gems, right? Like there's good ones. Like what if, the Fantastic Four, like what if, or what weird ones? I think I remember like what if like Jane
ifs you
Foster.
remembered?
So the story was, what if Jane Foster became Thor?
Right.
I'm like, that
Yeah.
was a what if comic, and now that like it became canon. But there's also a what if comic in the 80s, like what if Wolverine became the Lord of the Vampires? So you go like one end to the other spectrum. So I'm fine with some of the campy stuff because that's what ifs are. You just swing. Somebody will actually like it. Maybe it's not for our taste, but and I think that's kind of like what they do is like Saturday Night Live, where they just kind of spatter everywhere where jokes. Like that's why Andre loves Captain Carter, but I'm sure there's like a kid out there who loves this episode, and that's fine because that's what it is. It's a spattering of things where.
But I think there's a big difference. Like Stu said it, most of the what if comics are bad, but they came out in a time where there was nothing else to compare them to.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, I can buy this just one off. It's going to cover. Like one of my favorite ones was, what if Elektra killed Bullseye?
Yep.
There were some really good gems, but there was for the majority of it, they weren't good. They didn't have the best creative teams and stuff like that, but most of them were just one and done. And they came out in a time where comics were published in quantities, in numbers that we don't see now. And also there wasn't the amount of titles available as they are today. So I guess why I expect these to be better is because just like comic books, television, there's so much available for people's viewing time. There's so much for us to do with a limited amount of time, be it, are we going to read books? Are we going to exercise? Are we going to play video games? Are we going to watch, Netflix, Amazon Plus? Like there's so much time. So to me, I don't think that Marvel and them, they should be putting up on the board, okay guys, let's have a dumbass episode and let's swing for the fences. Like you can have a humor episode because all the MCU is infused with humor, but I still think you should be trying to put your best foot forward. So somebody goes and says, Andre, hey, I am going to enjoy rewatching this again and again and again. Now, like we said, some people will, but I'm just saying for the slope of this show, right? The quality of the ideas since the first episode, in my humble opinion, is just going downhill.
Okay, so
and I don't know if that's because of how they are.
I think that's why they're going to do this combined episode.
But again, I think my analogy of SNL is kind of the right fit for the show. It's like every episode is a comedy bit in a different way, and it hits different people's sensibilities. So again, when you watch an episode, when was the last time you watched Saturday Night Live, Andre?
But hold on, let me just interject. Saturday Night Live, though, is coming out weekly. We don't have 52 episodes of this to be like, oh yeah, most of them are good. We've had 7. And like, no, but we've all said that they're not all even good.
In each episode,
if you have so much, of course you can be like, yeah, most of it's crap.
Each individual episode of Saturday Night Live, the individual skits within one episode, some hit and some miss. Listen,
of course, Norm Macdonald, but then you watch the best of, and it's amazing.
Well, but Norm Macdonald, who was the weekend anchor, not everybody liked his delivery as the weekend anchor at the time, right? They preferred Seth Meyers, let's say. So every skit within and I think that's what Stu was trying to say, is within each episode you have 20 something sketches. Yes. Not everything hits all the time for every individual person.
And I agree, and I've said that. However, I do think there's a big difference in quality when you're comparing something to Saturday Night, which is weekly and is an hour and multiple skits, whereas they're saying, hey, we're only going to get 9 episodes. And these are the best 9 we could choose, because clearly they would have had tons of ideas and they had to scratch some off and pick 9. And I'm just shocked that this is the 9 that we're getting. Like, again, from the zombie episode to this,
we've got 2 more, Andre.
But I can't make it better. But it's not about making the whole thing better. I think it's just like Star Wars Visions, right? Like I watched all of it. They're all different in their own way, and some are good and some are bad. But it's all based on personal taste. And that's similar to What If. If you look at the same lens as what Visions did, then it's all the same thing. Everything went a different way on purpose. So I'm fine with them doing that way. Like, it doesn't have to be, it's kind of like they're opening the idea of the multiverse, and each episode's a different place. And that's it. They don't have to do any more on it. So if you really wanted a dark episode where they're like, Marvel movies are not dark enough, I'm like, here's this Doctor Strange episode where it's like really dark, and this is your jam. If you want more comedy, here's a Thor one. Here's the Captain Carter one. And clearly, Andre, that hit you where you wanted to be hit. And that's it. Like, I get it. It's not, but I think we're not always, our voices are very particular, but I'm sure if we surveyed a bunch of people, everyone could at least say they had 1 or 2 episodes they liked in Marvel What If. I'm not sure if you could say that about some of the other Marvel shows. People might not even watch it at all. Like, I remember we were in the store talking about Luke Cage, and people were like, I only watched 1 episode, I was done, and didn't get it. They're like, I don't like Luke Cage. I'm like, really? But it was like, it was a commitment to watch 2 seasons of Luke Cage. But this is like 1 and done, and you can just flip on to something else. And if that opens up the possibility for other characters, and that's great. So I agree with you. It's not perfect, but the same is just like, it embodies the spirit of What If. It's like, we're gonna throw different ideas out there.
What about what
Try it
could you
out.
say? Maybe consistency. Maybe Andre has an issue with the consistency. Like the first 2 episodes were kind of like very focused, and now that seems like they're just kind of like
No, but the tone
like
of each episode
with the
if we-
concept they're
if-
going
if we-
more and
I-
more
I-
kind of crazy.
I don't think that's the thing. I think if we sat down and did an even more critical analysis of like, what is this episode? What's the inspiration of this episode? It's like, one is a dark horror. Like, this is pretty much what, the
genre piece.
the genre pieces of the and they wanted each one to be unique and different and try for it. Like, maybe they were in the writer's room. It's like, we need to make each of these.
I'm gonna
drastically
say this. John brought up a good point. It is the consistency, but it's if you look at the episodes, it's how they picked what they are changing. The first one is, what if Steve Rogers does not? It's a very pinpoint part. What if Killmonger, had saved Tony Stark? So they're changing particular moments in the MCU. My problem with this particular episode, and maybe the other episodes that I, didn't enjoy. What if Thor did not have a brother? Again, I don't see how that fits into the MCU. I think the concepts of the episodes that I like best are tight concepts. They've picked a finite moment and they have scalpel pinpointed in on it. The Doctor Strange, what if she had died? Bang, like that you can see why that has the ramifications, right? Even the Ant-Man one, right? The first one is he's getting revenge because his wife didn't come back, or shield whatever. And it's not about the darkness or whatever. The second episode, which I really like, was, what if T'Challa became Star-Lord? While it's far out there, right? They still picked a moment from something that we've seen in the MCU. Maybe for this particular episode, to me, it doesn't have that bearing, but I do think the premise dictates what you can do. And I feel that some of the premises obviously are weaker than others, but that should not determine whether or not the writing and the imagination can be executed extremely well within the episode itself. Right? So I guess what I'm saying is there's definitely a division in the quality of the ideas in each one. And I would just ultimately feel that with only 9 episodes, it would have been amazing to get their best and brightest heads on all of them. Maybe that can't be because maybe they are the best writers that they have and they've lined them up and everybody's got to go. But I still think they can cover each different genre. Like you said, Stu, they did a horror one, they've done a comedy, they've done a zombie, they're doing different ones, right? But I still think they could have been executed better. I
think if they knew already, like they got 2 seasons done or confirmed, and they know that they're going to get probably a couple more on it, and they just don't want to blow their best stuff on the first episode. So maybe that's the thing too. We're like, like, again, we can go through the list of Marvel what ifs, and some of them, like you said before, some are good and some are bad, and some of it probably they're being held out for movies and other things down the line. There's probably a list that they were allowed to use, just like anyone. You're not allowed to free reign, which is why Edgar Wright left Ant-Man. He's like, I want to do a certain thing, and he's like, no, you follow the template, the Marvel template.
Andre, are you looking forward to what if Iron Man was trapped in the age of King Arthur?
Well, there's one where
that's a double issue. That's a double issue.
Yeah.
The second
There's
part of
one
that issue is, what if Dazzler was a herald of Galactus? And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like Andre, we get it. There's like, what if, like, I think there's one is like, what if Rogue possessed the powers of Thor? I'm like, that's your idea? Like, really? Like, Rogue Thor? Or that one, like, what if Iron Man sold out? I'm like, that's basically just booster gold. Just give me booster gold. So these are things where it's all over the place. I think it's a good dialogue, and I think that at the end of the day, they're all over the place. But that's what I expect from a what if. Like, I expected that from the comics from before, and I'm happy that they have it. But Andre, I totally get what you're saying. John, what do you rate this thing out of 10?
It gets a little bit of a boosted rating because of my love for Kat Dennings and getting to see Captain Marvel just ruckus Thor right in the face. So now I can picture Rob's face as Thor now, because he's like, oh, this is I identify with this Thor, and then Captain Marvel can just but yeah, I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
Andre?
Yeah, they got the voice actors back, so that'll get a 1 out of 10 for me.
Really? Your stake was usually 2. Usually, like, when the voice actors, typically you're like, oh, they got the voice actors. That's a minimum 2.
Well, yeah, but this one, but everything else just balls, right? So they got the voice actors. There you go. They tried.
Rob?
8.
I thought you were gonna go higher.
Yeah.
No, you know why? Because I still think that the idea, the whole notion, the whole idea, the what if is stupid for this episode. It makes no sense. There's a whole bunch of different things.
It makes it feel like a filler.
4 of us could have found something different, but again, they stuck to it, and I thought they executed the ridiculousness well. So
this is, as Rob said, this is just like any improv night. You stick with the bit, no matter how bad it's falling apart on stage. Everyone's like, you watch all the Saturday Night Live skits where basically people are just laughing in the background. You just gotta finish. Before we quickly jump away, I just want to get your thoughts. No one here watched To Doom, but it was, let's just say, not worth your time. So Rob, I know John and Andre had better things to do, but quickly, Rob, did you, outside the trailers, anything worthwhile of the trailers that you saw?
Outside of the trailers I saw, is there any information that
you cared about? Like, it was 3 hours long. Like, it was a green screen, like, showcase of every actor in front of a green screen with their arms crossed, going, "Let me tell you about the next thing." And The Rock was there for not even 3 minutes. It's like, let me tell you this trailer. It's like, and then you just like, honestly, there was more Lily Singh in this thing. It was like,
well, she was the host.
She was hosting than like anyone else, and all the actors were basically standing in front of the screen like, let me show you this 2-minute clip of this.
Is her show on Netflix? Is that why?
No, I think she's got a
Not
show
even,
coming
right?
to Netflix.
Like,
I think she has one. She's no longer doing the late show or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
So here's my
Rob was the only one that cared and talked about it in our group chat. Everyone else was like, "It's crickets." Yeah.
Well, because you know what? Listen, the failure of To Doom highlights how well DC executed Fandom last year, and and we always kind of thought Fandom they did a better job. Unless we want to go back to the Wayback Machine, this is like in the height of the pandemic of 2020. Fandom did a better job than what Comic-Con at Home did in July of 2020. And so because DC executed so well, we kind of thought, well, hey, this is Netflix. If anything, Netflix does things, they throw money at it and they'll do a decent job. And it failed. It reminded me of the San Diego Comic-Con at Home of 2020. So I was disappointed. The trailers that we did get for the movies or TV shows that we would enjoy, I thought, oh, okay, great, good. I'm glad we got something. But to me, it was a big miss. Umbrella Academy season 3. They've finished shooting. Even if it was I think it was 4 weeks ago, they could have put together a quick sizzle reel or a behind the scenes, and they did nothing. I mean, at least last year's Fandom, we got that with Suicide Squad. They just showed some behind the scenes stuff of filming enough to whet our appetites and get us excited. We got nothing. For Witcher fans, you got the behind the scenes of Blood Origin. You also got the notification that it's been renewed for season 3, but we didn't get anything really for season 2, aside from a quick couple of glimpses. And December 17th is a drop off. If you're a Cobra Kai fan, season 4, you got a good trailer. I thought it was good. And that's December 31st. If you're a fan of The Crown, you got the new Queen Elizabeth on the set, just giving a speech from her desk about them starting to film. So,
and if you like Cowboy Bebop, you saw whatever the heck that was.
Yeah, and for Cowboy Bebop, this is coming out in 2 months, November something or other. I think the 17th or something, and you got nothing except for the opening credits. Like, This is
which
your
was
big
really
event.
weird. Which was really weird. John and myself, who are Cowboy Bebop, at least I'm a fan. I'm not. I don't know if I'll ever love Kat Dennings as much as John does for anything in life, but I really like Cowboy Bebop, and I was really confused with that trailer because when John and I were talking about it, we're just like, really, this is the thing? Like, this is weird. Like, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah,
So,
it's the opening credits. You didn't even get a trailer, right? So, and Stranger Things season 4, you got a scene, kind of cut into a trailer, that I think sets up the tone. Kind of gets me excited, but overall, for 3 hours, a massive failure. I honestly think that they could have just been dropping these trailers on
100%.
And yeah. So
honestly, like in our chat, usually behind the scenes for this podcast, Rob and myself or John or Andre will post like a YouTube like video of something that drops when it happens on like Deadline or Variety or like any of the trades. Or like, oh, here's the thing, and that's probably more exciting than sifting. Like, I spent more time just fast forwarding through the YouTube like to Doom than anything else. I'm just like, oh, here's another person in a green screen, and it was really weird angles. Like, they would start and then they'd pan up, and I'm like, oh, this is a thing. And they'd have an actor from that show talk about, or even for Ozark, they basically just had they had
one scene. They had Jason Bateman out, right?
Jason Bateman in his office going,
yeah,
we have Ozark coming out. It's very exciting. Here's a clip. And I'm like, oh, did they hold you at rants? Like, are you being held against your will? Like, what are you doing? So it was
so they're taking like 10 minutes of content and trying to stretch it over like 3 hours and
100%
make it a big deal. Yeah.
It was brutal. And I get like, it was cool that they did. At least the one thing I could say is that some of their like Spanish and different shows, like they put it in there, and some of the anime, they put it in. They're like, oh, here's our original stuff. But then if you don't care about it, you're like, oh, I'm gonna fast forward through this. Like, I don't care about the Heist TV show that they have right now on that's Spanish and also dubbed in English, which is a Netflix thing. Like, even Lupin is like, oh yeah, it's a French show, but we'll dub it in English for those who don't want to listen to it in French. So it was really just, I let's just say Andre and I would only care about The Witcher, really. And then they gave us one clip at the end where I was like, I didn't really need to see this clip. I could just wait for a trailer. Like, what do I need to care about any of this?
But what they should have done is had a trailer out. The Witcher. And
it's coming out so soon. As like this, like the
you've got the
anime,
too, you've got Blood and Blood Origin, you've got Witcher season 2, you've announced season 3. Then deliver content for season 2 that comes out in 3.5 months.
But they've already done like the Witcher Con did do one trailer, and I specifically didn't watch this one because I'm like, I don't need any more spoilers. I'm already in. Maybe they're going for that. Like, you're either going to watch it. Now, I heard they announced the second animated series, so I didn't see if there was anything on that. But again, like, I don't know if I want to, see more than that. But it does sound like this.
But that's your choice,
very
though,
bad.
right? Yeah, I think honestly, what you could have done is you could have had Lily Singh just teeing up, saying, "Hey, Witcher fans, this is what we have for you," and you put all your stuff out there. You don't need to have the actors uncomfortably, as Stu said, look like they're being held hostage in front of a green screen trying to sell their wares. Like,
that was only Jason Bateman.
Everyone else it was just it just, you know what? And this is, again, DC fandom did it really great last year, and now this really has heightened my expectations of what they're going to do in October, whatever it's coming up, right? October 21st or something like that. So we'll see what they do.
It was, like, to Andre, to your point, the Witcher Con, even that one was like, Henry Cavill was there and he looked awesome and jacked as always. And he was like, let's just, like, even when The Rock showed up, he basically showed the same trailer for Red Notice. It's like, here's the same trailer that already exists. So couldn't Henry Cavill be like, hey, I know some people missed WitcherCon. Here's the trailer again. And like, you could just showed it.
That's true.
Like,
that's very true.
But they're like, no, we're going to show you this trailer of these two characters having a conversation. I'm like, I don't really like this. This is now to the point where, to your point, Andre, it's kind of like a spoiler. I don't want to see dialogue. To show me clips that are inconsequential with music from The Witcher in the background. I don't need to hear actors talk. Show me landscape. Show me the B footage. Of,
you know what they to Doom should have done is they should have sold people like me who didn't really appreciate or enjoy The Witcher season 1. I watched it. You guys are huge Witcher fans. You're going to watch the Witcher Con stuff and this and that.
Right?
But the Doom stuff should have sold people like me who were like, I'm okay with it. I don't know if I would watch season 2. That's what they should have had, something out there to sell the average Joe or Jane like myself.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
I think The Witcher's going to be strong enough to just plow people and get them in again. I think the fact
That's
that it's
very dirty.
well, the narrative is probably not going to be as confusing as season 1. So I think if they were like, you know, if you got
Hopefully.
through season 1, you'll enjoy season 2, and Vesemir's there. So we're all a big fan of that. Let's just move forward in the storyline and see what happens. I think it'll be good now that they moved away with the time travel back and forth, and it's just one storyline going forward. I think we should be okay.
Cool.
All right, John, Andre, where can people find you in the internet and in the desert of the real?
All right, so virtually you can find us via Heroes World Online, Facebook, Instagram, the YouTube, and online the audio Heroes World podcast. If you're thank you first of all everyone for sharing our stuff and tagging us in cool things you want us to see and things like that. So if you're trying to take us on the Facebook, if you type at Heroes World Online, our store page will link to that, whatever post is. So really appreciate that. That's awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
And our store is open 5 days a week from Tuesday to Saturday. Always have new stuff arriving. And again, check us out on our Facebook page and our Instagram. That's where we like to post most of our new releases. And you can also come in store and see even more, because some things will come in and slip through that we don't post, but we carry everything from obviously comic books to board games, miniature games, collectible card games, graphic novels, and so much more. So you owe it to yourself to come by, and not only come by, but come by multiple times. Like if you haven't seen us like Stu in several months, you're going to come and see so much new and different stuff that you'll be truly amazed, and hopefully find something to make your quarantine or lockdown stay, a little happier.
Awesome. Rob?
Hey, buddy. So yeah, you can find myself. I've shortened my Instagram handle to the NZF, so definitely you can find me there. I know it's stupid, but whatever.
What? The what?
The NZF. Yeah, I did. Yeah, THENZF. Or Z for our Canadian friends. Hey, but better than that, is
Insufficient funds?
Yes, exactly. That's NSF. But all the money I'm spending at your store, that actually is quite apropos. So you can find myself and John tomorrow night, Monday, live every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. It is the Heroes World Sidekick Show, and tomorrow we, along with our buddy Stu here, are going into the Wayback Machine to check out Daniel Craig's third outing as James Bond in Skyfall. This was the movie that marked the 50th anniversary of James Bond. It's the 23rd Bond movie. I can keep going on. We are going back. If you haven't seen it recently, it's on Crave. Definitely check it out. And we're gonna see what John's thoughts are on this movie. And is it a decent entry? I see Andre is nodding his head. But Andre's favorite.
He didn't
Bond
say what
movie
direction. That's fine. He is nodding his head. It's we don't know what vertical it is. Don't worry about it. It's up.
Yeah. So we are definitely checking that out. So definitely join us. And also you can find us on Thursdays on Hey, What I Missed with Chris and Pat. Last Thursday was a hoot because John couldn't figure out how to use his microphone. So it was a phenomenal episode, and definitely go check us out on the YouTube page on the Heroes World Online for all the goodness.
Yeah, so thank you all for joining us today. Like I said before, please, if you can support the store anytime you can, big or small purchase. I know they have extended hours on Wednesdays and Fridays to 9 o'clock. It's a good time for me after work to swing by and grab stuff. So if you are looking for something to buy and you need a little more extra time, Wednesday's New Comic Book Day, and Friday is just a late night. It was cool to go swing by. I saw some people I haven't seen in a while when I swang by on Friday night, so that's awesome. So if you are unable to support, Andre and John will of course ship. And again, if you can't make any purchases, liking, subscribing, sharing is the next best thing. Do what you can, help us just get the word out, because again, not everyone in our area knows the store exists. So it's helpful because, as Andre said, they have everything. And when you search particulars, you might not find their store based on a particular need. They have so many different varieties of stuff there that, swing by and get a ready for World of Imagination. And of course, Andre has his book club on Friday. I think you guys did Star Wars. Which one was it, Andre, that you did this week?
We're doing the Thrawn trilogy, and we just did book 2, which is Dark Force Rising. So we're just doing what we like. We covered the first 10 chapters, so super, super cool book. If you've never read it, highly recommend it. It's the first book to kick off the Star Wars Expanded Universe, written by Timothy Zahn. So it's 3 books, and you can watch our videos on the first book, and now we're on the second book.
Who's with you on this journey? Who are the other folks that are with you on this?
Oh, I've roped, these are all people that are new to reading Star Wars Expanded Universe, and I've given them all Star Wars names. So it's my friend Jesse Rendar, Megan Jin, and also my good friend Scott Solo, who has been on this podcast with us. So lots of fun over there.
Super exciting. I was hoping that. So does that mean you're Andre Babu Frick? Like, is that how it works?
No, I'm R2 Dre2.
Okay, that's acceptable. Fine. Yeah. All right, carry on. So thank you so much for
that makes me Robbie One Kenobi. Just saying.
Loading, locked and loaded, ready to go, Rob. Anyways, so thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon. We're gonna do another review momentarily and talk about comic books. But yeah, see you. So thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.